You mean to tell me when you're quarterback in the Washington Commanders, or for a year when you were hurt and the team stunk, that you're going to have your attorney write a letter to LSU and tell them, you know what, you're not getting any money from us. We're not donating a nickel unless you retire my number? Calm down, all right? I mean, you got to be kidding me. This is what you're worried about? You're not Billy Joe Cannon, who won a Heisman Trophy in 1959 and is a legendary LSU running back. You are not Burrow, who, by the way, won a championship. You lost 3-4 games, including your opener. Now, you won a Heisman Trophy, I get that. But you lost 3-4 games, including your opener against Florida State. What are you doing? You're going to say you were there 1 year. You transferred from Arizona State. Did you write the same letter to Arizona State? Didn't you retire your number out there with Herm Edwards? I mean, I can't believe that a quarterback in the NFL who's got something to prove off a horrendous season when he was injured, and I'm a Daniels fan, but he's going to sit there and have his attorney and his family members write a letter to LSU and basically blackmail him? Hey, you don't retire my number because I won a Heisman Trophy. You're never getting a nickel from me again. This is what you're concerned about? I'm shocked. And then the kid in high school, well, I wouldn't have gone unless you gave me the number 5. That an 18-year-old kid telling a university that? The whole thing stinks. But I'm going to put the blame on Daniels, who's got more things to worry about than his dopey number being retired at LSU, which I can make the argument doesn't deserve to be retired. They played there 1 year, and it was like they won a national championship. I'm disgusted by everything from that standpoint.
I would say I love the idea of growing the game. I just think from a practicality standpoint, it's almost going to be impossible. And here's why. I think we would all agree the way you have sustainable success in the system is you draft players and you retain them. And they're just fundamentally maybe players that don't want to live in England or Germany. Yeah. I remember when I was at the Jets and we're trying to recruit Brett Favre, who's leaving the Packers. He's in Mississippi and he wants to go play for Tampa Bay. That
was my first.
As you well know, Kmart. And we're selling him New York. He thinks that's in the North Pole. And look, there may be great run organizations in London or Berlin, but there may just fundamentally be players that don't want to live there. And because of it, to me, it would be hard to have sustainability from an organization standpoint.
In many ways, I do agree with her. I think they have done a nice job. I think Andrew Berry, through all the other stuff that he constantly is having to navigate through with Cleveland, he's done a nice job of compiling a pretty darn good roster. And it's not just the perimeter weaponry. Look, when you talk about KC and Denzel and Harold Fannin and Quinshon, those guys are great. We all know this. We never talk about the offensive lines until they don't have one. We never talk about the trenches on defense until you don't have one. They have invested a lot of resources in the offensive line as well, through free agency, through the draft this year, where it looks like they have some really nice building blocks defensively. With Mason Graham, Jared Verse, you have two really good players right there on the defensive line. Carson Swetzinger, you have one of the best young linebackers in the league. Denzel Ward, Grant Delpit, you have really good players in the secondary. So you're sitting there going, what the hell is it with Cleveland? Why is it that they're not able to get out of their own way? Well, we know what the dysfunction as far as hiring and firing coaching staffs, and you can debate their competency all you want. We know how the owner can get involved, but it's always come back to the quarterback position. It was the same way when I was there in 93, 94, 95. We didn't have it nailed down then. It was the thing that held us back. We had good running game. We had one of the best defenses in the history of football up until that point, but we couldn't get quarterback right. It's the same thing with Cleveland. If they didn't get that right, this team is going to be heard from here in the future because they have some nice things as far as the rest of their roster is concerned. I just saw a lot of stuff, Kimberly, about people saying, these joint practices should be abolished because, they're really pointless. You see all this fighting and stuff, the risk of injury. People talk about all the time about, hey, we should abolish preseason games. They're pointless. They're meaningless. Fans don't like to see them. Players don't like to play in them. It's just vanilla football. Doesn't mean anything. Then, mini camps, OTAs, the offseason has been cut down dramatically from the 90s, early 2000s when we used to have a lot of offseason practices. You can't hit anybody the way you used to anymore. I understand. The league has really got to put an emphasis on player health and safety, which I understand. I'm just sitting there going, well, damn, what can we do in the game of football now? What do people want? What exactly is it that you do want? Because we complain about everything. We cut down so many things in the game of football. To where now it's just like, people expect that this game can be played at the level that it's played at. If players just show up on Sunday, that's it. That's not how it goes. That's not how it works. That's not how football is played. That's not how teams are built. And I just think we need to kind of pump the brakes on all this. We need to stop that. We need to cut out this. Yeah. We need to take care of that. Because you know what? If you start doing that stuff too much, the game is going to suffer eventually. It's going to not look the same as what you're accustomed to and what is drawn in the kind of fan base it has worldwide. I just kind of It just overwhelmed me at one point when I was sitting on social media. I'm sitting there going, what the hell don't we complain about when it comes to this sport at this point? Because there isn't very much. I played with some of the baddest dudes that this game has ever seen. Some of the toughest guys this game has ever seen. Jesse Tuggle, Scott Case, Jeff Donaldson, Eric Turner, Pepper Johnson, Carl Banks. Dudes who, when the game was being played in between the white lines, would absolutely knock your teeth out of your mouth. And that's where they dispense justice. I never saw those guys punching, pulling guys' helmets off, suplexing guys on the sideline, and then getting up like, that stuff doesn't mean, I can't even say it. That stuff doesn't mean anything. The game of football provides you plenty of opportunity to kick the living you-know-what out of someone within the context of the rules, okay? When I went to San Francisco, when I was drafted there as a rookie in 1991, I don't remember anybody talking to me about Ronnie Lott pulling off people's helmets and fighting them and punching them on the football field and doing this kind of nonsense. People knew what Ronnie Lott was all about. They knew what guys like Jeff Fuller and those guys were all about. That's what really matters to me. This kind of stuff means nothing, and quite honestly, I have no tolerance for it. I hate it.
So I'm going to give him a little pass for last year. Okay, he got hurt. No, the season was over when he got hurt, but he got hurt. Didn't have a lot of weapons. They were due to have a little bit of a down year. They lost a lot of close games, which began in week one, and they played the game in where they played down in Brazil when Herbert had the big run and they lost a close game. Kind of spiraled from there. I'm expecting Mahomes got a chip on his shoulder. He's got something to prove, and that's dangerous, giving a quarterback this good something to prove. I'm expecting a big year from Mahomes, and if you told me right now that the Chiefs minimum went to the AFC Championship game, I would not be surprised.
No. I have him right in the middle. I have him great. I think he's above the good quarterbacks in our league, and it's how you slash them. You look at the elite. I look at elite, it's easy. There's 5 guys to me that have separated themselves that are in that elite category, whether it's proof of what they've won or proof of what you see on the football field. You have Matthew Stafford, to me, is in that category. Patrick Mahomes definitely at the top of that category. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. To me, those guys have separated themselves of their skill set and what they've accomplished in this league. That next tier, that top 10 list you're looking at, those next 5 guys are in the great. Because when you start to look at it, where are you putting the good guys? Like, there are guys that are good. You can't say everybody else stinks. So Jordan Love is above those guys. He's a franchise quarterback. He is a guy that has won a playoff game. He is somebody that puts up the numbers each and every year for the Green Bay Packers since he's been there. Now, he's not elite because he hasn't done the 4,000 yards. He's not in the MVP conversation. He hasn't been to a Super Bowl. Those are the things that are reserved for the guys that have accomplished that. But he is still above. You guys are shaking your head. I want to, as soon as you say Jordan Love is good, I want you to then tell me where the other quarterbacks are. You're just going to say every single quarterback in the league, other than the top 5, are all just good, and there are no great quarterbacks?
You said you've never played at Bellerive before. How do you prepare for an event of this magnitude when it's going to be your first time in a competitive setting there?
Yeah, it's one of those things where we're late in the year, so you're trying to conserve energy, but to your point, also trying to learn a new course that I have never been to. So it'll be trying to be as efficient as possible with practice and get out there, see the course. This is why we have caddies too. They spend some extra time out there so that when we get to the first tee, I can ask him a question and he'll give me an answer that I have confidence in, knowing that he's done his homework too. So there's a lot of pieces that go in behind the scenes. So everyone's got to be on their game this time of year.
At what point do we give Curt Cignetti the benefit of the doubt that we've done to other coaches who find their teams consistently within the top 5 of these preseason polls every year?
I mean, I understand it, but I'm going to jump in here and say that there's just almost nowhere for them to be put. They are the third best team in their own conference. And I know that sounds like a slam, but it's not. It's a reality. And I think Indiana's schedule this year, and sometimes you can schedule yourself to death in talking about these things, but I think Indiana plays nobody in the preseason. We know that. That's a tradition unlike any other in Bloomington. But look what happens in late October. You may say, okay, well, Nebraska's terrible. No, they're not. Matt Rule has done a good job bringing that program back. They have Ohio State, and then they go to Michigan. That, to me, is a 3-game gauntlet that they didn't have to deal with last year. And then SC is going to be better. We've heard that a few times under Lincoln Riley. And Washington is another really sneaky team, and going to Seattle in November, to me, is a challenge. So they have 4 or 5 games that they really didn't have to deal with last year, Courtney. I'd love for them to play somebody in the preseason to get tested, but that's okay. They clearly don't want to do that because they've canceled all those games from now until the end of time. But let's not get carried away. They're not a one-hit wonder. Cignetti's the best coach in college football, but that schedule and whatever you want to say about Josh Hoover, he is not going to be Fernando Mendoza. I think everybody can bank on that. They're going to come back a little bit this year. I think they're still a playoff team, 10-2 at the worst, but that's still not worthy of being number 1 or number 2. So I understand Indiana graduates all over the country are now starting to sound like Ohio State graduates and Alabama graduates and Notre Dame graduates, but slow down a little bit, okay, IU? You've had your day. You'll have some fun, but you're not winning the national championship this year.